Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Transpicuous News. It's September 29th. How the hell we got to the end of September already? I have no idea. But apparently, autumn is here. It's been a while. I know. I keep trying to make these more often news reports, and things just get into the way, let's just say. A couple of things we want to talk about today. One very major one. Couple that are more in the giggle zone, but we're going to dig into it, okay? So hold on, I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Let me tell you about the giggle I got from a couple of these. So let me pull up this first. We're going to go over here. This is interesting. This one is actually not a giggle. This one has got some serious connotations that made me go, ooh, has the US Senate just set themselves up? Is this a plan within a plan? So, Congress passes a law saying that American citizens can sue the Saudi Arabians over 9/11. Then Obama comes along and vetoes it. Said, no, I'm the dictator here. I will tell you what you can pass laws on. And, well, Senate just came in, vetoed Obama's veto for the first time ever. Needless to say, Obama's a little pissed. Surprise, surprise. But what he had to say about this was really, really interesting. I want to just give you this interesting little quote down here. We just scroll down here to the bottom. He says, the measure sets a dangerous precedent in international law that could have negative consequences for the US. Oh, really? But here's where it comes in really clearly. The president said the measure could erode the concept of sovereign immunity, leaving American citizens and assets abroad vulnerable to lawsuits if foreign countries pass reciprocal laws. The concern that I've had has nothing to do with Saudi Arabia per se, or my sympathy for 9/11 families, right, Obama? It has to do with me not wanting a situation in which we're suddenly exposed to liabilities for all the work we're doing around the world, all the work Obama's doing around the world that's so good. Yeah, no. He doesn't say so good. He just says all the work we're doing around the world, i.e. destroying the planet, right? This is interesting because if you've been following along, you know this is one of my major rants that everyone always tries to say, let's take George Bush to the, and Cheney and to the Hague and International Criminal Court. And I'm always like, guys, the U.S. is signatory to the Hague, ICC. The Hague has zero power over the US or US citizens or US corporations, zero. So this changes things though, doesn't it? So what if, in setting this international precedent, it now, and let me further that, in setting this precedent and allowing American citizens to sue a sovereign nation or entities within that sovereign nation, i.e., let's say they decide to sue the Bin Laden family, who are members of the royal household of Saudi Arabia and very, very wealthy. Also good friends with Bushy Poo. Let's say that they decide to sue them, and it goes through, and it's recognized as a lawsuit, and the American people, citizens, whether it is a class action lawsuit or not, win their lawsuit. Does that then set the precedent that, for example, let's say the Iraqi citizens, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, let's lay them all out, to then sue the American government as a sovereign or entities within the American government, i.e., could we see entities suing various corporations, American corporations, for environmental damage. Is this a precedent? Is this the next step to taking down the American machinery? It's interesting, really, really interesting. I'm going to be watching this very closely because I don't think this little battle's over yet. And I have a feeling that we may watch Obama pull a rabbit out of a hat or out of his ass to try and counter this Senate veto. We're just going to watch this. Now, in the realm of funny giggle, haha, John Kerry, who, of course, you got to love the guy. I mean, seriously, it's comedic relief all the time. John Kerry gives Russia an ultimatum: stop bombing Aleppo or all cooperation ends. That's right, because, you know, the U.S. has been cooperating with Russia and Syria so well in the past. They do so well in their cooperation with Russia and Syria. You know, like when they cooperated with them on the ceasefire, where they decided during the ceasefire to kill all those Syrian soldiers. Yeah, I mean, this is such an empty threat. It is a giggle. You just sit there and go, really, Kerry? No one in the world takes you seriously anymore, ever. No one takes him seriously anyways. But seriously, this kind of a threat? What, we're going to take our toys home and we're just not going to play with you anymore? Yeah, we're just going to go play ball over here. We're just going to ignore you. You can't play with our toys. And I'm pretty sure the Russians were crushed by this. I'm sure Lavrov is crying in his pillow right now. Now, for the best giggle of the day, I'm going to try and say this guy's name. I'm going to fail miserably, but I'll try. Yücel Balut, chief advisor to Turkish President Erdogan. He made a Twitter about Deutsche Bank saying, I know, Turkey should consider using its new wealth fund or a group of state-owned banks to buy Deutsche Bank. Uh-huh. Really? Turkey's going to come up with the money to buy Deutsche Bank? Really? And where is this new wealth coming from? Because you see, they've talked about creating this new wealth fund, but it hasn't actually happened. I mean, that's the biggest joke of it. Hold on, let me just go down here. Turkey's sovereign wealth fund is still in the works, but the critical problem at this stage is that while it is sovereign, the key bit it lacks is the wealth. So it doesn't exist. There is no wealth fund. And as was pointed out in the Zero Hedge article, and we just love to figure out how Turkey figures it's going to cover Deutsche Bank's $42 trillion in derivatives. Have fun with that. Yeah, I'm sure you will. Have fun with that. Now, everyone's ignoring Greece. Just, you know, it's kind of like Greece was the 2014, 2015 news. Everyone ignores it. The battle rages on. I mean, seriously, the battle rages on. And we have a situation where, again, this week, Athens has just put new austerity and measures in place. Now, this is so gross. This is so unbelievably gross how this has played out, right? The Greek parliament has passed a law to cut pension spending because, you know, it's like their pensioners haven't had enough cuts already, and transfer control of public utilities to a new asset fund. Oh, wait. First question, who controls the new asset fund? That's my question. The reform sought by the country's creditors may help unlock $2.8 billion from Greece's $8.6 billion bailout program. So, see, they were given $86 billion in a bailout program, but they have to, you know, earn it. You know, like they don't just get it. No, they've got to jump through hoops, and they've got to sell off more things, such as public assets, airports, motorways, water, and electrical utilities. They're privatizing it all, selling it off, in order to receive some bailout money from the EU, who put them in that position in the first place. This is one of the biggest screaming examples of gross fraud and corruption the financial world has ever seen. And yet it is continuously brushed under the table. And it's not just Greece, right? I mean, this is happening in Italy, Spain, Portugal. It happened in Ireland. It's going to happen in England. Just you wait. Brexit or no Brexit. How did this happen? Only one word: bankers. Now, here's the big story I want to talk about, because this was like, oh, as soon as I saw this, it's like ding, 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 ding. Internal alarm bells went off all across the board. And the deeper I looked into it, oh, the louder the alarm bells got. So, you ready for this? Shimon Peres, former Israeli prime minister twice and president once, has just passed away yesterday. And on the surface, you say, oh, he was 93 years old. You know, old fella hung in there. Yeah, it's not that simple. Okay, so first, and we'll get back to this one article in a second. First off, he had a stroke in, September 13th. Oh, September 13th is also the same biblical notable day that purportedly Noah released the raven to find dry land. And that just came to me from someone else who was just like, don't you remember we were talking about this on the 13th? Yeah, so on the 13th, he has a stroke. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think it is in this article. Yeah, here we go. Rafi Walden, Shimon Peres' personal physician and son-in-law, said Peres was in robust health until the stroke on September 13th. Interesting. So he has a sudden stroke. He is put into a, according to mainstream, put into a medically induced coma and put on a respirator, i.e. what we're talking about is he was put on life support. He has a massive stroke. On the 13th, he's put on life support. And he dies Wednesday morning, today being Thursday. Now, according to the Judaic law, he must be buried within a set amount of time. It cannot go beyond it, and it certainly cannot go beyond the Sabbath. If he dies in the week during and lead up to the Sabbath, he must be buried by sundown on Friday. Judaic law. The other little interesting piece in this, though, and I just sat there and I had a long conversation with a friend of mine on this from the Unfuckers room and was like, oh, really? He sends me this. This is out of a Russian news piece, which is a terrible Google Translate. Sorry, everyone. That he was an organ donor. He wanted to donate his organs. And he became a donor, a cornea donor. He donated his corneas, and that his corneas had been removed and transferred to the National Transplant Center. And I have questions, because first of all, by Judaic law, traditional Judaic law, you can't be an organ donor. The body must be buried with all its parts, or guess what? The soul is just not going to rest peacefully. You sit there and you go, wait, hold on. He's donating his eyes. He's donating his eyes, his corneas. Now, first question, who would want the corneas of a 93-year-old man? First question. Second question, seeing as it technically is against Judaic law, now apparently some stipulations have been changed recently that organ donors are kind of sort of semi-acceptable. But again, his eyes. And the eyes are always talked about as being the window of the soul. And that was really interesting to me. Of all the things that they donate, his corneas. Now, here's the thing, though. We're talking about Shimon Peres. So like I said, 2 times Prime Minister of Israel. 1 time he was the president. The last living founding father of Israel. The last living signatory of the Oslo Accords. Wait. Robust health, has a massive stroke suddenly out of the blue on the 13th. Put on life support, because you can't call it, that's what it was. He was put on life support. Suddenly dies yesterday. The funeral will be on Friday. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Friday is the 30th of September. It is the first day of moon dark, or the black moon. He will be buried in Jerusalem. And all the world leaders are coming, including Obama, including Hollande, including Justin Trudeau, former President Bill Clinton's going to be there. So they're all going to be in Jerusalem on the 30th at moon dark. That just so happens to be 24 hours before Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah. The New Year. Now, what's interesting is, give me a second here. Is this it? Here we go. Because you'll remember we talked about the Shemitah year last August and September 2015. The conversation around it was, at the time, there is some argument within scholars of whether the Shemitah year was from 2014 to 2015, or if September 2015 was the beginning of the Shemitah year, which would then end with Rosh Hashanah 2016. Now, this person is talking about that. The year ends, if it is, we have no way of knowing. Unfortunately, like I said, even the scholars disagree on whether the Shemitah Jubilee year ends at the end of this Judaic year, which is October 2nd. Which will be the opening of Judaic year 5777. This article is talking about, are we going to see the Dow drop? Kind of like it did on the last Shemitah year. We've seen the precedent set. If we remember correctly, I talked about this in the One People Roundtable. What was the big thing that happened in Israel in August? Wasn't really covered by anyone, but the big thing that happened was the fact of they settled on and set up a brand new high priest. For the first time in hundreds and hundreds of years, and with statements along the lines of, at any point in time now, we could be allowed access to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and therefore we have to have the high priest ready to perform the sacrifices. Just out of the blue, in August. So now we have a new high priest. Oh, in September, during the month of September, for 2 weeks, I believe it was either 2 weeks or 10 days, somewhere in there, and I think it just ended this past weekend, we had a meeting in Jerusalem of the Abrahamic faiths for a week or two, the Jewish faith, the Christian, and the Islamic, all meeting together on the Temple Mount to pray together and to discuss beliefs and religion. And we have this lead up. We'll keep leading into this. Now we're going to have all the world leaders in Jerusalem this Friday, right before Rosh Hashanah. The last day of the markets before we go into technically the fiscal new year. And you have Donald Trump, who just met up with Netanyahu and promised Netanyahu that when he becomes United States president, he will recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Oh, interesting times. Interesting times. So, yeah, I'm going to keep a really close watch on this because I don't trust this shit for love nor money. That's it. That's our little mosey through what's new in the news. And I tell you, all kinds of distractions going on all over the place. Brangelina breaking up. Oh, everyone cry over there. And paid, pardon me, riots in Charlotte by the paid rioters who all came from out of state, paid by the Soros Foundation, of course. Because, we haven't seen that precedent set before. And we have fucking, what do you call it, the circus? What was that, Monday? Was that the circus on Monday with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton? I don't even want to get into that shit because that was just fucking crazy. Yeah, the circus coming to town. Distract, distract, distract. Nobody look at what's going on over in Israel right now. But I'll keep an eye on it. And that's it for me. I'll talk to you guys again soon. I'll try to make it soon. This time, I really will. Okay. Bye, everyone.